Guten yardening, everybody. When we're out here deciding what goes where and when to plant, oftentimes creativity leads the way. It has to. We don't have a ton of space and we want to make the most of the space we do have. So I'm going to show you something today that I think you're going to like. You remember those old credit card commercials where they'd say something like baseball bat $50, uniform $100, being part of the team priceless. Well, that's exactly what we have right here, because we have a bale of hay that was $5. We have some seeds that probably cost about $1 based on the number we used. But being able to grow a salad bar in your front yard, priceless. Let's take a little closer look at what we have going on right here and talk a little bit about the experience of trying to grow salad in hay. If you remember, just 2 short weeks ago, we did a full-length tour of our September garden. And at the time, I described this area, this bale of hay, as looking as though there were just a bunch of weeds growing on top and maybe one plant that looked like it should be there. But you can see, again, just 2 short weeks later, that we're now at a point where we're ready to harvest some of our salad bar. And I'm going to talk you through exactly what's in here, what we planted, what grows well or what's growing well for us in this bale of hay. But I also want to talk you through the process just a little bit, because I think this might be an ideal setup for someone who has a limited space and is looking for a kind of cool experimental medium that's going to grow well. So we're going to start with the plant that's front and center, the tallest one on here. And this is a red rubine or red rubine Brussels sprout from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. Beautiful looking Brussels sprout, and clearly this Brussels sprout isn't close to being ready. But it is a plant that is frost hardy, so we're able to keep it out here longer. It likes that cooler weather. And as it starts to get a little bit bigger, we'll be able to harvest and eat these leaves. And you can eat these leaves in a similar vein to, let's say, a collard green or a broccoli leaf. They're really tasty. They go really well in breakfast smoothies. The second vegetable we have growing in here, and you can see them all interspersed throughout, are our red giant mustard greens. We got these seeds from M.I. Gardner. We've had good luck with M.I. Gardner seeds in the past and in the present. So you can see there's a little bit of flea beetle damage here, it looks like. But overall, these are in great shape. These are super tasty in salad. They're a little peppery, they're a little spicy, so they also work well to help flavor other dishes that you might be making. Most of the rest of these greens here are from seeds that we got at a local greenhouse. They are an heirloom lettuce cutting mix, so basically a salad mix. But we've also planted a little bit of arugula, a little bit of wild rocket in here as well. So we have a great mix that is going to pair very well with the Easter basket radishes that we just planted a few days ago. Check out our radishes, our Easter basket radishes that we planted in our video at the beginning of this week. I already told you, they don't take long, a week or less to come through. That's a weed. But the rest of these are going to be delicious Easter basket radishes. I would suggest that there are a few things you might want to keep in mind when you're planting in a bale of hay for the first time. Number one, you probably don't want to plant a root crop in the first year. So we can use this bale of hay again next year because it's going to break down, it's going to start to decompose. And we'll have a much better chance of planting some root crop in there. And it's actually going to be much easier to plant because the soil will mix in. The decomposition process is going to create a really great medium. What you need to do is make sure that you prepare this bale the best you can, though, early on. So we planted a squash. We planted the squash by digging directly down in, spreading out a little bit of the hay as much as we could to create a nice little hole, adding a little bit of soil. We also fertilized the bale of hay and watered it down. The problem is we really didn't prep it enough, and so the squash that we planted in here was not really successful. But what that squash did was give us a little bit of time to learn. It also gave this bale of hay a little bit of time to break down. When the time came to pull that squash out, we made a decision to go ahead, add more fertilizer, which was clearly needed, and to add a little bit more of our potting mix on top. And you can definitely see these plants are all the better for what we added. What we're going to be able to do now though is next season, so after the winter time comes, next season we could plant potatoes or sweet potatoes in here, and they'll have a much easier time because it'll be a lot looser on the interior. So this bale of hay will become a perfect setting for some of those root crops. And I want to show you something to prove my point. This bale of hay, when we started with it, was a really tight bale of hay. You weren't really getting in here very easily in terms of trying to dig in. But now I can move everything around really easily. I mean, you can just feel the difference that the rains and the waterings and then the plants growing in here in time creates with this bale of hay. So here's our suggestion. You have limited space. You have access to hay, which you can get at a lot of greenhouses, or in our case, from a local farmer who didn't spray any pesticides on the hay that he was growing. You have a little bit of potting mix and some seeds, and you could have a salad bar just like ours. We're going to be able to come out here and harvest from this, have salads for lunch, and there'll be plenty. And this isn't going to stop growing. We still have multiple weeks of time left for this to develop. It's going to, again, not bolt because the temperature's cooled down. It's going to just keep growing and providing for us a nice little oasis right behind our front yard and space. You know, the way we look at it, regardless of if you have a ton of space or a tiny bit of space, when you're creative in your gardening, when you're thinking outside the bale, you're going to find ways to be successful that are going to teach you lessons about gardening, and they're going to help you know how to be self-sufficient in the future. And as we push toward food security, we're going to try as many things as possible as it takes to provide the best results. And I would argue that this is a pretty cool result. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a comment. Let us know if you've tried this before or what creative gardening methods you're using to maximize your harvest. Remember to share and subscribe, and as always, remember, when you're with us, you're good to grow.